Hello, everybody. I found it now that I realize it, very courageous of Marlene and very interesting to actually invite Medecins Sans Frontieres here. Especially, I saw that she planned to have the government's position being explained by Christos, and then Action Aid, and then MSF, and then the others. But then in between was, I guess, he couldn't make it. Yes. So anyway, we have a different side also to bring here to the table as Medecins Sans Frontieres working in Greece in the migrant crisis than the one Christos explained. They're working mostly, Christos is working mostly with children. We are not in charge of schooling of children. This is one big difference between what I was going to say and what Christos actually explained to you. I will try to be very brief and not very long. I know it's been a very long day for you as well. So I have a lot of questions, no answers, and I'm really open to learn from you and from whatever the discussion is going to go forward afterwards. So what I wanted to say is not so much presenting in detail what MSF is doing. I will give you an idea, but mostly to make you think about the fact that we often say refugees or migrants, for the same matter, and the persons vanish. They just don't exist anymore in our head. So one trick I have when I don't know when to start my presentation with is go on Google. Okay, what is the topic? Refugees. What is the common perception of refugees if you Google it? And what you come across is, okay, Syrian, Africa, walking, camps, fleeing war. This is a pretty good summary of what refugees, the perception of refugees is nowadays. There are people from Syria, mostly, which is not true actually, but there are people from Syria. That's what we know. It's the most present in the news anyway, the most present war in the news. Africa, which is a very big part from Africa, but okay, they've been around for so many years, so we kind of forget about it. They're walking, so they're coming by their own means, walking, swimming, boats. They end up in camps for no one knows for how long, basically, or in what conditions. They're fleeing war. So we associate refugees with war. And if we go on to the pictures, we can see they start usually with children. It's much easier to feel empathy for a child trying to reach safely Europe or a country where there is no war. And large amount of people, the first thing they're trying to convince you of is that they're not terrorists, which comes first, and then they say we are human beings, which is very much the way we think of refugees or who is coming along with the refugees in Europe. And this is what feeds our fears and whatever is going on. So then, because your workshop here is about migration, let's go to migrants. What do you find when you talk about migrants? And then you have Europe, African, Syrian. So African now come first. Syrian, they're still pretty much on top of the list, coming by boat, they're immigrants, and they come to work. Okay, so in Europe, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that Europe is first here. Europe is facing a migration crisis nowadays, yes, but it's been around for decades. And other countries outside Europe, Asia, or Africa for that matter, have migration issues or refugee issues that are much larger than Europe, okay? And they're present for many more years. And here you have big masses. Mostly you see men, and of course the boats, the traveling, everybody coming. I don't like the fact also that here for migrants, there are all sorts of migrants. I'm a migrant. I'm Greek, but I grew up in Belgium. I never say that I'm Belgian, but I feel Belgium as home. Still, I lived in other countries as well. I'm here for the last few years. I would never say I'm Belgian. I would never say, but I don't feel like home here. And it's very strange that I have a Greek passport, and when I'm here, I feel like a foreigner. And my friends say, but you're kind of weird because you're Greek. I said, yes, but I still feel as a foreigner, which is strange to be in Greece, Greek, feeling like a foreigner. I said, but you were a foreigner in Belgium. I said, yes, but that was natural. I was Greek in Belgium. So, but all these migrants, I was not the one making the decision, obviously, it was my parents, but all these people who are also migrants and the migration routes, and you have internal migration also within the countries from people or groups of people traveling across countries and living places, they're never represented here in the common perception of people. So we forget that we also may be, to some extent, not in the same way. I'm not saying that I had a very difficult migration route, but we also have some aspects that are related to migration. So what I wanted to say here is the fact that we have waves of people coming from many, many countries. It's not only Syria. And although the war in Syria is really, really hard, you have people from Iran, from Afghanistan, from Turkey, from Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, Libya, everywhere. And there are very, very big waves, okay? And the problem with this, the problem with the fact that in the common perception of people, refugees are associated with Syrians, for example, is the fact that, for example, in Eleni Kotsoni, which is one camp in Athens you forgot to mention, but I'll show it to you, you have 3,000, around 2,000 and a half now, because some of them left, Afghans living there. But they're second-class refugees. We don't like Afghan here, because why are they here? They have no war. I have friends saying to me, but I saw this documentary on TV the other day and Taliban are gone. The Americans are there, everything is fine. They do this and this and this. I say, yes, but these guys are telling us they're fleeing for their lives. They're not here because they like Greece or the sun or the islands. And they don't understand why these people over here from Iran are in Eleni Kotsoni. Or the fact that Afghans, for example, because we work with them more in my team, are twice immigrants, twice migrants, let's say, twice refugees, because a lot of them went to Iran, stayed for a few years as refugees, and then left Iran as well, and then came to Greece. So they're reliving the same experience again. So what is MSF doing in Greece? I don't know, okay. So MSF, this is part of Greece, but MSF is present in Greece in around 20 locations. There are around, as Christos said, over 60,000 migrants or refugees here in Greece, stranded, I would say. They're not just living here, they're stranded. They don't want to stay here. The vast majority of them, 95% of them, Greece was not a destination country. So in that sense, Athens, we are in Athens, is not really an arrival city. It is an arrival city in some extent, but not for them, at least not in their mind for now. Anyway, I'll come back to that later. So MSF is present in 20 different locations across Greece, in the islands, Lesbos, Samos, Chios. They're present in northern western Greece, Epirus, Thessaloniki, in many, many camps. And of course, the team I'm working with as a mental health activity manager we are in Thermopyles, which is a city, let's say, halfway through Athens and Thessaloniki. And in Athens, we have two main locations, in Eleni Kotsoni, which is a camp, an unofficial camp, and a daycare center in the city center, near here, actually. So this is very interesting because this camp over here is also a picture of what migrants and refugees in Greece are living right now. They are there for some time, but they either go to Thessaloniki or Athens to have their interviews with UNHCR for the refugee asylum status, and they never come back. So this is really a transit camp in terms of how long they stay over there, but these are transit camps as well, at least in their minds, despite the fact that they are stuck here. But they, as I said, they don't know that yet. So every single one of these camps we are working with, it's me and 3 psychologists and 4 cultural mediators. We don't call them interpreters because they do much more than just interpreting or translating when we have a psychological session. They actually mediate some meanings, they mediate some culturally appropriate behaviors, some words that we cannot actually find. And it's very difficult also for them as well because because the cultural mediators we're using, this is a parenthesis, are also migrants themselves for the biggest part of them. And some of them have reached Athens or Greece a few months ago. Some of them have been living here for a few years, but still they have stories that are more or less similar to the stories they hear, which is very, very difficult for them emotionally sometimes. And also sometimes you have people, for example, from Iran, mediating from Farsi, which is one of the dialects of Afghanistan. They don't all talk Farsi in Afghanistan. And Farsi is a dialect also of Iran, the language of Iran. So it's not their own either. So it's not the exact dialect of the person, the patient. It's not the language of the cultural mediator, and it's not the language of the psychologist. And everybody's trying to work across languages. You're definitely lost in translation, but you work with whatever you have. Okay? So this is Thermopylae, and I'm going to show to you the aerial view of the camps, just to show you that you have very different fabrics or situations. The camps are situated in very different locations, which means that they have very different interactions with the cities, let alone museums. Okay? So here in Thermopylae, you have two buildings, they're old hotels next to hot water springs, whatever they call, and it's very humid. It looks very nice in the summer. It's very shady. It's in the middle of nature, in the middle of nowhere, basically. So they are 20 minutes apart from the main city, which is Lamia, and they are surrounded by a lot of mosquitoes. Especially in the summer, it's really not good to be there. And of course, they have rooms. They're not in tents, but the situation is really very, very difficult, let alone now in the winter where they have no heating. It's very, very humid. I go there once every 2 weeks, and I'm there with my coat and everything. I can sit in my car, and I'm cold. I don't know how they live there with the newborns and everything else they have. And sorry, I forgot to mention, what we do as a team is we have psychologists, but we also have sexual reproductive health service, which is midwives basically and gynecologists for the women, and we also have health promotion services, which is connecting with the community, trying to see what the community needs are. And other teams of MSF are also working with non-communicable diseases like diabetes, chronic diseases basically of people here. So this is Thermopylae. So this is Eleni Kotsoni. So this is the most interesting site from my experience because this is Athens. This is the southern part of Athens. You can see it's quite crowded. We are in the middle of a very crowded residential area. This is the old airport, which closed around 2004, something like that. So as Christos said, like with the Leonas, we are very good in choosing places in an urban area that are actually no man's land. So for me, it was shocking because I live somewhere here, straight line, it's no more than 2 kilometers away. And I knew there were refugees there. There are 3,000 people there. I had no idea. I mean, I knew they were there, but okay, fine, there are 3,000, okay, fine. They're living, okay, someone is taking care of them. And there is a road, passing through here, which is very, very busy. Every day actually is the main axis of Athens. But then you can only see arrivals. This is the old arrivals building. This is why we call this arrival. And this is the two stadium after the Olympic Games. Basically, they used these areas. And you passed there and you could see until up to the summer, the tents and everybody living at the border of the street. The government was nice enough to clean all this area, put the tents inside, so you don't see it anymore. So a problem you don't see is a problem solved. And it's fine. still, the people are still there. They're, oh, sorry. Did I do something?
Go ahead, another one.
Okay, we're back. So basically, there are people here, there are people here, they're living in tents, whether inside the buildings or outside in the field of the stadiums, which you can imagine in summer, you have 2 or 3 months in Greece with really high temperatures. It's very, very hard. And you have the winter, as you saw a few weeks ago, which is even harder if we have women giving birth right in the middle of just before New Year in a tent with -5, and they're still living there. So the situations, they live here. I'm not going to show you any pictures. I wanted to, but I want to keep it short. It's really, really difficult situation for them. And the fact is that for me, this is a vacuum, as I say, a human vacuum within an urban zone. It's like an invisible bubble. You don't see it. I live there. I go to the supermarket, which is next to it. I have my uncle and aunt living with a view to the airport. We don't see them. We don't see them. We don't think about them. They just disappear. And it's a shame because you're right in the middle of the city. And you have then people here saying, okay, let's do knitting groups. Said, what a great idea. Let's have the women, the Afghani women come and learn how to knit. Okay, who's going to give the lesson? Who's going to do the lecture? And they say, okay, they can do that between them. No, bring women from the municipalities around. They don't do that. You need some kind of an opening. There was an artist here. Maybe if you go to MSF website, you can see it in Hockey Stadium. He was an artist back in Afghanistan. He had his tent. It was the art office. He had actually a sign saying the art office. He had 100 children learning with him how to draw, and they managed to make him have a small exhibition, but in the stadium. No, I disagree personally. Take this person, bring him to the municipalities, to the museums, anytime, anything that creates some kind of an opening, some kind of a sharing. Okay, this is even more in central Athens, where you have, it's very close to here, we are somewhere below there, basically. And you have here different squads, and there are many more. This is an old slide, there are many more squads because this is a dynamic thing, as you can imagine. There are more and more squads created depending on how many people come and go, etc. And since September, we have a daycare center in the center of Athens, where we offer the exact same services. We offer SRH, which is sexual reproductive health services, midwives, gynecologists for women who are pregnant, for newborns, etc. And we also have psychological sessions, so mental health, which is addressed to all, children, men, women. And this center over there is actually addressed to everyone. Migrants, whether they're refugees or not, whether they've been living in Athens for the last 5 years or they just came here, whether they are Greek or non-Greek. You already have like more than 80 different nationalities coming to the daycare center. So what I said before as a title, we think of refugees and the persons vanish. The very, very first time I went to Eleni Kotsoni, my first day at work, I found that really appalling. I was shocked. It was very dirty. It was smelly. I couldn't see the people. I couldn't see anything. And then the more you go, the more you listen to the stories, the more you get to know people, the more you do vaccination, for example, campaigns, and you see one by one people passing with the children, do the vaccination, you talk with them, you exchange something with them, they become someone. Of course, the picture of young and small island is known to everyone. It's very easy to associate, to feel empathy for someone in particular. You said it in the morning as well. The moment you put people exchanging stories between them, the moment it becomes more personal, it is a moment of sharing, of openness, the moment they start existing. Because one has to think, if I had to leave Greece because of war, let's say, because of something really tragic, where I had no other choice but leave, then I would say, okay, what do I lose? What do you think you lose when you're leaving because of war? I don't know. You lose your house, okay, let's say the simple thing. You may lose family and friends, you lose your neighborhood, you lose maybe your job, and that's about, but no, you lose much more than that. You lose your memory sometimes, you lose even your gender, as weird as this may sound, because I'm gonna see names, weird names from Asia. I would never know whether they're men or women. I would often make the mistake, and you lose that as well. You basically lose many components of your own identity. And then you arrive to Greece, Italy, anywhere. And then you're stuck with this label on your forehead, refugee, migrants. And of course they're refugees. I'm not saying they're not, but they're not only that. And this is why I'm saying they need connection. They need somehow to be able to connect with the stories, to you, to me, to know that these people we are working with have very distinct stories, and they have very different individualized needs and individualized stories. Okay, so when I think of refugees, and they're only refugees, as I said before, they may be next door to me, I never see them, they don't exist. And I do this exercise every day. I go to work and it's fine and it's great and I feel much better about myself and great, everything is solved. And then I go to the tube or to the metro here and I see a homeless person, and again, homeless person. You have the same exact mechanism for the homeless person. And you forget about the fact that this is a person who has a story, a very specific story, a very specific need, and you cannot just put everything in one bubble and just make the problem disappear. And I'm not saying that we're not going to do that. We're going to do that because it's very natural to categorize things. This is how we work. We need to categorize things in order to perceive. In terms of perception, categorization is very basic. But at least we need also to be aware that we are doing this. And we need to be aware that, okay, they're refugees, but let's scratch a little bit. Let's see what's behind. And that's my worry sometimes with the museums, with any other kind of activity. Okay, we'll look at the problem, but what about what is actually behind this? What is our connection with the person in the exhibit? What is our connection with this painting or this picture or whatever story we hear and we find it very interesting, and we may talk about it later on in a coffee, but okay. But then again, the question is, do we want to get in touch with this? What do we do? And I really like the fact that what I heard today, because I'm not a museum person, I really like going to museums, but I don't really know anything about how museums work or how they organize their activities. And I'm happy to be here actually. And I like the fact that, okay, museum can be, we are a humanitarian medical organization. We are very good in providing medical care. We have many challenges, but we're trying our best. Okay, but then what about the other part? And we're talking about integration. And I don't like the term integration, because by nowadays, integration has become synonymous of forced assimilation. And I don't like that. I prefer what you said in the morning about what difference makes the difference, or inclusion. I like the fact of inclusion. I like the fact of enrichment. What can I take from that? What can I give back? And the fact that I'm open to learn from them. I'm not there to teach them how to behave or how to do things. So I think I'm going over the board. This is a picture. I don't know if you've seen this picture before. A picture that I really like, and the fact I like this picture is because in Lesbos, you had a very, very big wave, as you know, the last couple of years of migrants arriving or refugees arriving. And at the beginning, of course, before the NGOs jumped in, you had the locals taking care of the people arriving at the shore. So they were helping as much as they could and as well as they could, okay? So then 150 NGOs arrived. Right on the beach, they blocked, literally, they blocked the access to the locals to help the people who they were helping them before. They were taking care of these people before. And we say, no, step back, we are the experts. We're gonna do it, okay? And the people behind, the local communities, yes, we have problems with some people of local, I'm not gonna say that everything is perfect here, but there are people who really want to help. And the people from the local community really felt frustrated because they say, okay, fine, but we want to help. These grandmothers in Lesbos most probably are from Asia Minor anyway. So they have in their DNA, or at least the stories of the mothers and the fathers, the migration route. So they say, okay, but I need to help. Okay, I'm a grandmother, I cannot do anything. What can I do? Be a grandmother. Go down to the beach, take the baby. I'm going to be a grandmother. Leave your hands free for a couple of hours. Those who have children, having your hands free for a couple of hours is really, really good. Even that. But they cannot breastfeed, but that's the next level. Anyway, so I like this because I said to my resume, to my abstract in the paper, okay, to what extent do NGOs facilitate or hinder the connection between local communities and the migrants or the refugees? I think we facilitate a great deal. Of course, you offer expert knowledge on medical issues or psychological issues or other issues, but we cannot do just that. Museums is, for me, from what I understand, a backdoor also to communities, to be to connect with some community between them in an interactive way. And we need that. We need local communities. I think the first NGO that forgets about local communities is just, anyway, whatever. So just to finish, I don't know if you know, this picture is also a picture from Behrakis, who was also the picture someone showed in the morning with the father with his child. Yes, and I like this picture because this father is carrying a child who is 25, 30 kilos heavy, more or less, in the rain, in his foot, walking, which means that borders open or close, they will find a way, it's like the water, they will find a way to make their way to wherever they want to go. And this is also important too, because Athens, as I said in the beginning, is not for them an arrival city. It's part of the migration route. They don't want to be here, they don't want to, not because we have a recession, they didn't know that anyway, because this was not their destination. It's not a destination city for them. Now they're stuck, they're stranded. And let's talk about me. I also think that this is not where they want to be, but they're here. And no one knows, they don't, I don't. No one knows for how long. So you need somehow to work with that. And I don't know, in terms of museum or exhibitions, I like the idea of moving museums. How do you work with something that is moving, something that is in transit, and you have great uncertainty about where it's going to go or when or how it's going to evolve? I was thinking at the beginning to bring a story of a refugee, but because I'm a psychologist and we are bound from professional secret and we want to respect our patients, I didn't want to make up a story. So I talked with the people we are working with. Some are refugees themselves. And what they said is that what they hear from the people talking in the camps is that they feel that they're in the middle of the sea, which again shows they're not in their destination, at least in their minds. They don't know. They feel greater certainty. They're in the sea, and however, they say Athens is a great city, they can see that, but they don't feel they belong here. They're in transit, and maybe they don't feel they belong here for other reasons as well, obviously. But they're in transit, and they're in great uncertainty, and however beautiful Athens may be, or this picture, whatever these people are feeling down there is really, really scary and uncertain and painful. Okay, thank you.